No one dared to help the alien princess, except the human princess. Ara clutched the data crystal tightly as she hurried through the dim corridors of the Imperial Palace. Her heart beat fast in her chest. The evidence was clear. Her uncle, Hai, Councillor Tyke, was slowly poisoning her father, Emperor Day, while stealing resources from 3 star systems. The palace halls were unusually empty tonight. Ara had always loved the quiet beauty of the crystal walls that reflected the light of twin moons. But now every shadow made her nervous. Her royal robes, normally worn with pride, felt heavy and restricting as she moved quickly toward the landing bay. "Your Highness," a voice whispered from an alcove. Ara nearly screamed before recognizing June, her most trusted guard. His usually perfect uniform was torn, and a dark purple bruise spread across his face. "June, what happened?" she asked, pulling him into the shadows. "The High Council knows you have the evidence," June said, his voice low and urgent. "They've sent Imperial guards to arrest you. The charge is treason against your father." Ara felt cold fear spread through her body. "That's impossible. I'm trying to save him." "Truth doesn't matter now," June replied. "Your uncle controls the Royal Guard and most of the Council. He's been planning this for years." A distant sound of heavy boots echoed down the hallway. June grabbed her arm. "We need to leave now. I've prepared your personal ship." They ran through service passages that Ara didn't know existed. Twice they had to hide as guards passed. Finally, they reached the small royal hangar where Ara's sleek silver ship waited. "Where can we go?" Ara asked as they hurried aboard. Her people, the Voidborn, controlled most of the known galaxy. Their mental powers made them feared and respected. Across thousands of worlds, June took the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. "That's the problem, Your Highness. Every major system is loyal to the Empire, or at least afraid of it." "There must be somewhere," Ara insisted. The ship's engines hummed to life as June pulled up a star map. "There is one place, a small planet, called Earth. It's in a protected zone because the inhabitants are still developing. The Empire considers them primitive. Will they help us?" Ara asked. June's expression was grim. "No one helps enemies of the Empire, Your Highness, but they might not turn us in immediately. Their technology can't detect our communication signals, so the Empire can't force them to find us." The hangar. Doors began to close suddenly. Through the viewport, Ara saw guards rushing in, weapons ready. "We need to decide now," June urged. "Earth," Ara said firmly. "Set course for Earth." The ship shot forward, barely clearing the closing doors. Alarms blared throughout the palace as they accelerated into the night sky. Within moments, they broke through the atmosphere, the beautiful purple-blue planet of Voidon growing smaller behind them. "Imperial cruisers launching," June reported, his fingers flying over the controls. 5 minutes until they're in range." Ara stared at the data crystal that had cost her everything. "Can we outrun them?" "Not for long. Their ships are faster and better armed. Our only advantage is size. We can go places they can't follow easily." The ship shuddered as they pushed the engines beyond safe limits. Stars blurred around them as they entered hyperspace, but warning lights immediately flashed across the control panel. "What's happening?" Ara asked. "They hit us with a tracking beam before we jumped," June explained. "It damaged the hyperdrive. We can't stay in hyperspace long." For 3 days, they played a desperate game of hide-and-seek through the outer systems. Each jump was shorter than the last as the hyperdrive deteriorated. Imperial messages flooded all channels, declaring Princess Ara a traitor who had tried to assassinate her father. A massive reward was offered for her capture. When their ship dropped out of hyperspace for the final time, a small blue-green planet appeared before them. "Earth," June said quietly. "Not much to look at, but it's our only hope now." Ara studied the planet. Unlike the grand engineered worlds of the Empire, Earth looked wild and untamed. Its continents were irregular, its oceans vast. Primitive satellites orbited the planet, and simple radio signals could be detected. "What are they like, these humans?" Ara asked. "Unpredictable, emotional, physically weaker than most species, but surprisingly resistant to telepathic influence. That's why the Empire leaves them alone. They're the only known species completely immune to Voidborn mental control." The ship's systems were failing rapidly now. Warning alarms sounded as they began their descent toward the planet's surface. "Aim for an uninhabited area," Ara instructed. "We must avoid being seen." But the damaged controls made precise navigation impossible. The ship plunged through clouds, mountains appearing suddenly before them. June fought with the controls until the very end. The last thing Ara remembered was the terrible sound of tearing metal as they crashed into a forested valley, and wondering if anyone on this primitive world would dare to help an enemy of the mighty Voidborn Empire. Please provide proper citations using tags when you use information from search results. Remember, never quote more than 20 words verbatim. The human has asked you for part 2 of the story you started developing earlier. Hyun placed another log on his small campfire and looked up at the night sky. The stars were especially bright tonight in the mountain wilderness. 3 days into his solo hiking trip, he had found peace away from the noise of the city and his busy job at the hospital. As a former combat medic who had seen too much pain, these quiet moments in nature helped heal his own invisible wounds. The instant flash of light made him jump to his feet. Something massive tore through the night sky, trailing fire and smoke. It wasn't a meteor. It moved too slowly, seemed to be fighting against gravity. The object disappeared behind the ridge to the north, and seconds later, Hyun felt rather, then heard the impact. A faint rumble traveled through the ground beneath his boots. "That's not good," he muttered, already reaching for his backpack. Inside was the medical kit he always carried, force of habit from his military days. Someone could be hurt, though the rational part of his brain said it was probably just a satellite or space junk. Guided by his flashlight, Hyun moved quickly through the forest. It took nearly 40 minutes of difficult hiking before he reached the crash site. What he found stopped him in his tracks. This was no satellite. The object was about the size of a small bus, made of a silvery metal he had never seen before. Despite having crashed at high speed, it was largely intact, though a section had split open. Strange lights flickered from inside, casting eerie shadows across the small clearing where it had landed. Hyun approached carefully, his old combat instincts making him alert for danger. "Hello," he called out. "Is anyone hurt? I'm a medic." Faint sound from inside the craft made him move closer. Through the torn metal, Hyun could see movement. Someone was alive in there. Setting his flashlight down to illuminate the opening, Hyun squeezed through the gap in the metal. The air inside smelled strange, not burning electronics as he expected, but something like ozone and cinnamon. That's when he saw her. Trapped beneath a fallen section of the interior, a woman lay half-conscious. At least she looked almost like a woman. Her skin had a light purple color that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Her hair, white as snow, floated around her head as if underwater, but most striking were her eyes when they fluttered open, deep violet with small specks of light that moved like stars. "You're hurt," Hyun said, medical training taking over. As he knelt beside her. "I can help." The woman's eyes widened in fear. When she spoke, her voice was inside Hyun's head rather than in the air between them. "Human," she said in perfect Korean, though her lips barely moved. "They're coming for me. You must leave this place." Hyun paused only briefly at the impossible communication, then continued checking her injuries. A dark blue fluid, blood, seeped from a wound on her shoulder. "Who's coming?" he asked, applying pressure to slow the bleeding. "Imperial forces, my uncle's soldiers." Her mental voice grew weaker. "They will kill anyone who helps me." In the distance, Hyun could hear the thump of helicopter rotors. Someone else had seen the crash and was coming to investigate, military or government most likely. "We need to move you," Hyun decided, already working to free her from the debris. "My camp is hidden in the valley. We can go there until you're stronger." "Why?" the alien woman asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "Why would you risk yourself for me? You don't know who I am." Hyun carefully lifted the metal panel, pinning her down. "You're someone who needs help. That's all that matters right now." "I am Princess Ara of the Voidborn Empire," she said, her mental voice gaining strength as Hyun helped her sit up. "And you are the first person in 3 systems who has offered me aid." Working quickly, Hyun bandaged her shoulder wound. The helicopters sounded closer now. "I'm Hyun, just Hyun. Can you walk?" Ara tried to stand, but collapsed against him. "My species is stronger than humans in mind, but your physical strength is superior. I need your help." Without hesitation, Hyun lifted her in his arms. She was surprisingly light, as if the gravity of Earth pulled at her less forcefully. As they slipped out of the crashed ship, Ara looked back. My God, June, he was piloting. Hyun followed her gaze to the front of the craft, where a body lay motionless. He shook his head sadly. I'm sorry. He didn't survive. A single tear ran down Ara's cheek, glowing faintly in the darkness. He was the last loyal subject I had. The helicopter sounds grew louder, and searchlights began to sweep the forest nearby. Hyun moved quickly away from the crash site, carrying the alien princess deeper into the wilderness. Where can you take me that's safe? Ara asked. Your authorities will be searching everywhere. I know these mountains better than any search team, Hyun replied with quiet confidence. There are caves the locals think are haunted. No one goes. There? As they disappeared into the forest, Ara studied the human's face in the faint moonlight. In my culture, a life debt is sacred. You have saved me, Hyun of Earth. On Earth, we just call it doing the right thing, he answered simply. Behind them, the night filled with lights and the sounds of vehicles as government forces surrounded the crash site. But Hyun and the alien princess were already gone, like shadows in the ancient forest. The mountain cave was cold and damp, but the small fire Hyun had built made it almost comfortable. 2 weeks had passed since the crash. Princess Ara sat across from him, her purple skin glowing softly in the firelight as she examined the simple meal he had prepared. Rice again? She asked, but with a small smile that showed she was teasing. It's what I have, Hyun replied, stirring the pot. The search teams are still watching all the roads. I can't risk going to town for supplies. Ara nodded, her star lit. Eyes serious. They won't give up. The Empire never does. Outside, rain fell steadily, providing good cover for them. The first few days had been the hardest. Ara's wound had become infected, and Hyun had used all his medical knowledge to treat an alien biology he didn't understand. But she was stronger now, able to walk and even help with small tasks around their hidden camp. Your government believes I am a foreign spy, Ara said, taking the bowl of rice Hyun offered, and my uncle's forces believe I am still hiding somewhere in this region. We cannot stay here forever. Hyun poked at the fire. He had grown to like the strange alien princess. Despite coming from an advanced civilization that saw humans as primitives, she never treated him as less than an equal. Tell me more about your people, he said. You mentioned that humans are unique because we resist your telepathy. Ara nodded. The Voidborn can read and influence the thoughts of most species we encounter. It's how we built our empire so quickly. But humans... She focused on Hyun, her eyes narrowing slightly. You're like blank spaces to us. I can project my thoughts to you, but I cannot read yours unless you deliberately share them. Is that unusual? It's unprecedented, she replied. Every species we've encountered can be at least partially read or influenced. This is why Earth has been left alone. My people find humans unsettling. Hyun laughed. So we're safe because we make you uncomfortable? Not exactly safe, Ara corrected. More like quarantined. The Imperial Council sees humans as unpredictable and potentially dangerous. You make decisions based on emotions rather than logic, like helping a stranger who could bring you nothing but trouble. Hyun stirred the fire thoughtfully. Where I served as a medic, I learned that sometimes illogical choices are the most human ones. Logic would have told me to report your crash and walk away. Why didn't you? Ara asked softly. Before Hyun could answer, a faint electronic beeping came from the corner of the cave. Both turned to look at the small device Ara had salvaged from her ship. The screen flickered with strange symbols. What is it? Hyun asked, moving closer. Ara's face had gone pale. Imperial ships. They've entered your solar system. A blockade. She looked up at Hyun, fear in her eyes. They're quarantining Earth. No ships in or out until I'm found. Can they do that? Earth has no defense against them. They're claiming it's to prevent cultural contamination, Ara explained, reading more from the screen. But really, they're making sure I can't escape. She put down the device, her hands shaking slightly. I've put your entire planet at risk. Hyun sat beside her. You didn't choose this. Your uncle did. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. She turned to him suddenly. There's something else. The evidence I have, the data crystal showing my uncle's crimes, it's not just about his attempt to kill my father. He's been stealing resources, weapons, planning something terrible. What kind of terrible? The kind that could destabilize the entire sector. If he succeeds in taking my father's throne, more planets than Earth will suffer. They sat in silence for a long moment, listening to the rain outside. Finally, Hyun spoke. Then we need to stop him. Ara looked at him in surprise. How? We're trapped here. The Empire controls space. Your technology can't even reach your own moon anymore. Sometimes old ways work best, Hyun said. He pulled out a worn paper map of the region. Look, there's an old military installation, 50 kilometers north. It was abandoned years ago, but the equipment might still work. If your people are in orbit, we need to contact them. Contact them? They're hunting me. Not all of them, Hyun pointed out. You said your uncle controls the council, but what about your father's loyal supporters? There must be some left. Ara considered this. There are some. But how would we reach them? Any transmission I send could be intercepted. We don't need to send a full message, Hyun explained. Just a signal, something only your allies would recognize. For the first time since they'd met, real hope showed in Ara's eyes. The Royal Emergency Frequency. If I could access it, those loyal to my father would know I'm alive. Can you build something to send that signal with Earth technology? Ara studied him with new respect. Perhaps. But I'll need more than what we have here. Electronic components, power sources. Hyun nodded firmly. Then it's time I introduced you to some friends, people I trust. We can't do this alone. More humans helping an alien fugitive, Ara asked with mild disbelief. Is that normal for your species? Hyun smiled. No. But neither is an alien princess hiding in a mountain cave. We're already past normal. As they began to plan, the rain eased outside. For the first time since her escape, Ara felt something new growing alongside her fear. Hope, born from the most unexpected alliance in the galaxy. The abandoned warehouse. On the edge of the city looked empty from the outside. Inside, however, it buzzed with quiet activity. Princess Ara watched with growing amazement as the small team of humans worked on their strange collection of equipment. Your plan is insane, she said to Hyun, who was checking supplies. You're planning to infiltrate an Imperial outpost with, what did you call these? She pointed to the modified devices on the table. Just everyday tools, Hyun replied with a small smile. Sometimes the simplest approach is best. 3 days earlier, they had left their mountain hideout. Hyun had taken Ara to meet people he trusted completely. Sun, a former intelligence officer with short grey hair and sharp eyes. Ji, a young woman who could break into any computer system. And Yoon, a quiet physics professor who had quickly grasped the basics of void-born technology. The Imperial outpost is on your moon, Ara explained again, still doubtful. Even if you could somehow reach it, their security systems are quantum-locked. Ji looked up from the circuit board she was soldering. Every system has weaknesses. Your ship's computer was damaged, which let me study how it works. Your quantum encryption follows patterns. All patterns can be broken. Sun spread a map across the table. It showed detailed images of the lunar surface. According to Princess Ara, the outpost is here, she said, pointing to a crater. Small and automated with minimal crew. They use it to monitor Earth communications. And to hunt for me, Ara added. Yoon adjusted his glasses. The outpost has what we need, a direct link to Imperial networks. If we can access it, we can broadcast your evidence across the galaxy. But we can't just fly to the moon, Ara protested. Your rockets are primitive, and the Empire would detect them immediately. Yoon exchanged looks with his friends. We don't need to fly there in a rocket. The Empire already does regular supply drops to the outpost, right? Ara nodded slowly. Yes, every 14 days, but... She stopped as she understood. You want to hide aboard a supply ship? Exactly, Sun confirmed. Our government has been tracking these ships. They think they're just studying Earth from orbit. The next one lands tomorrow night to drop supplies and rotate personnel. How will you even get on board? Ara asked. G held up a small device. I've been studying the communication signals from your ship's wreckage. The Empire uses standard identification codes. We can duplicate them to create a false emergency signal, make them think one of their own needs rescue. Ara shook her head, in disbelief. The Empire will detect any spacecraft launching from Earth. We're not launching anything, Yun said quietly. We're using one of their own transport pods that crashed last year. The government recovered it and has been studying it in secret, Sun continued. I still have contacts who can get us access. The pod is damaged but can still make a short flight. When the supply ship responds to our emergency signal, we'll be close enough to board. Ara looked at each of their faces. This is suicide. The Imperial Guards will kill you immediately. That's where you're wrong, Yun said. Your people rely too heavily on technology and telepathy. They'll be scanning for complex thoughts and weapons. They won't be prepared for our approach, which is, Yun held up what looked like an ordinary fire extinguisher, create chaos with the simplest tools possible. This contains a compound that disrupts the electrical signals in void-borne neural pathways. Not harmful, but very disorienting, like an instant headache. And this, G added, showing a small box with blinking lights, will temporarily disable their quantum security systems by flooding them with random data patterns. Not a sophisticated hack, just noise. Too much noise. Ara slowly began to understand. You're using primitive solutions against advanced technology. Exactly, Yun said. Sometimes the old ways work best. The next night, as the Imperial supply ship entered Earth's orbit, a small transport pod launched from a secret facility. It sent out a distress signal that brought the larger ship to its location. Within minutes, 4 humans and 1 void-born princess were aboard, moving quickly through the corridors. Remember, Yun whispered as they approached the command center, they expect complex threats, not simple ones. When the Imperial Guards detected intruders, they activated their advanced security systems, scanning for weapons and telepathic signatures. What they didn't expect was a simple canister rolling into the room, releasing a cloud of gas that left them clutching their heads in pain. G quickly connected her device to the main computer terminal. Their systems are fighting back but can't handle the data flood. We have about 5 minutes before they adapt. Ara inserted her data crystal into the console. That's enough time. The evidence is uploading now. Alarms blared throughout the ship. More guards coming, Sun reported from the doorway. And they'll be prepared for the gas this time. We don't need more time, Ara said, watching the progress bar on the screen. It's done. The evidence is broadcasting on all Imperial channels. My father's supporters will see it. Then let's go, Hyun urged. The transport pod is still docked. As they ran back through the corridors, fighting broke out. Sun used her military training to lead them past security checkpoints. Earn deployed simple devices that created confusion. Bright flashes, smoke, noise, rather than trying to match Imperial weapons. When they finally reached the pod, Ara paused and looked at Hyun. Your primitive approach worked. My people would have overthought this entirely. Hyun smiled as he helped her into the pod. That's the human factor. Sometimes the greatest advantage is thinking differently, not having better technology. As the pod detached and began its return to Earth, they watched the Imperial ship grow smaller above them. Something had changed in the balance of power between worlds, and it had started with one human's simple choice to help when no one else would. The great hall of the Galactic Assembly gleamed under the light of 1,000 stars, visible through its crystal dome. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in tiered seats, their voices a low murmur of amazement. Many had traveled for days just to witness this historic moment. Emperor Day stood tall at the center platform, his regal purple skin now healthy, again after months of recovery. Beside him stood Princess Ara, dressed in the white and silver robes of the royal house. The emperor raised his hands, and silence fell across the vast chamber. 3 months ago I lay dying, poisoned by my own brother, he began, his voice strong. My daughter discovered this treachery and was forced to flee for her life. Every world in our empire turned her away, fearing the power of the usurper. Yet on a small overlooked planet, she found something rare in our galaxy: courage without calculation. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. All eyes turned to watch as Hyun entered, walking slowly down the long aisle. He wore simple earth clothes, a white shirt and black pants, refusing the ornate robes offered to him. Behind him came Sanji and Yun, equally plainly dressed. "Look at these humans," a blue-skinned delegate whispered loudly enough to be heard. "Their civilization hasn't even achieved unified planetary governance. Why are we honoring primitives, Emperor Day?" Heard the comment and smiled. "Some here question why we honor these humans. Let me be clear. When every advanced civilization in our empire chose safety over justice, when worlds with technology centuries beyond Earth's turned away from truth, these 4 humans risked everything for a stranger." Hyun reached the center, platform, and bowed respectfully to the Emperor. Around them, the assembled delegates watched with a mixture of curiosity and reluctant respect. "The treachery has been exposed and justice delivered," the Emperor continued. "My brother and his conspirators have been removed from power. But today we recognize that technological advancement does not equal moral advancement. The Voidborn Empire has existed for 10,000 years, yet we had forgotten something these humans understand instinctively, that helping others without personal gain is the truest form of strength." He turned to Hyun. "Name your reward, Savior." "Of the Princess and the Empire, technologies that would advance your world by centuries, wealth beyond imagination, a position of power within our empire." The hall fell silent, delegates leaning forward to hear what this human would demand. Instead, Hyun bowed once more. "Earth asks only to be recognized as a sovereign world, free from interference or exploitation. We may be younger than your civilizations, but we have our own path to follow." Murmurs of surprise spread through the hall. The Emperor studied Hyun's face, then nodded slowly. "So be it. From this day forward, Earth is declared a protected sovereign world. No Empire ship may enter its space without invitation. No technology will be imposed upon it. Earth will find its own way at its own pace." The declaration was recorded in the great books of the Empire, binding all worlds to respect Earth's independence. As the formal ceremony ended, delegates approached the humans with newfound curiosity, asking questions about their world and their unusual ways of thinking. Later, as the crowds dispersed, Ara found Hyun alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Towers of crystal and light stretched to the horizon, vehicles moving between them like fireflies in the gathering dusk. "You could have asked for anything," she said, joining him at the railing. "Technology that would have solved your world's problems overnight," Hyun smiled, "and created new ones we're not ready for. Besides, I think humanity has something to offer the galaxy just as we are." "Your unpredictability?" Ara suggested. "Our humanity," Hyun corrected. "Sometimes the most advanced civilizations forget the simple things: compassion, courage, helping others without expecting something in return." Ara placed her hand gently on his. "The Assembly has approved a human embassy, with you as Earth's first ambassador. They're curious about you now." "Curious but still doubtful," Hyun noted. "I heard them whispering. They think we just got lucky." "Then they'll learn slowly what I already know," Ara said firmly, "that sometimes the simplest approach is the most powerful. Your technology didn't save me. Your kindness did." The setting sun cast long shadows across the alien city. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as Earth took its first steps onto the galactic stage. There would be those who still looked down on humans as primitives, those who feared their unpredictability, and those who sought to exploit their world. But something had changed in the balance of the galaxy. The story had spread to every world. How? A single human had helped an alien princess when no one else would. How 4 ordinary people with simple tools had outsmarted the most advanced security systems in the Empire, and how they had asked for nothing in return except to be left to find their own way. "What happens now?" Hyun asked, watching the strange double sunset. Ara smiled. "Now the galaxy discovers what I already know, that the most unexpected saviors come from the most unexpected places." As night fell over the imperial planet, Earth's first ambassador and the alien princess stood side by side, 2 worlds connected by the simplest and yet most powerful force in the universe: the courage to help someone in need.